Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube video. Today I am joined by Olle over at Hacking Chinese. He also works for Skritter, but today we're going to be talking about a challenge that's coming up on Hacking Chinese that is very much in scope of what Skritter does as a mobile application. And so I thought that we would jump on a call today and talk a little bit about it. So what is happening in October that you've got coming up for Hacking Chinese?
Yeah, so for October, we have a challenge. Well, we have challenges every month, actually, but this time it's vocabulary. And in case you haven't heard about the challenges, they are essentially a way of building language skills through daily practice and friendly competition. That's the official slogan, as it were. And the idea is simply that we focus on one area of learning Chinese every month and spend 3 weeks each month to try to improve that area. I mean, it's easy to, get overwhelmed by all the different things you have to learn. So focusing on one thing at a time makes it slightly easier to, make a dent in the amount of stuff you have to learn. So in October,
Absolutely.
It's vocabulary.
And when does the challenge start?
Yeah, it runs from October 10th to the end of the month, but you can always sign up before that, or you can even sign up after that. So if you're late to the party, you can still join. Of course, you have less time to learn the stuff, but you can still do it.
Sure. And this challenge, as you said, it's a vocabulary challenge, which is particularly interesting for Skritter because we're a study tool, a flashcard application. And so we're actually going to be including a coupon code for the challenge. It's actually an activation code. So if you use the code HCVocab Challenge in all caps, and we'll have a link in the description below, it's actually going to give you full access to Skritter, 100% free, through October 31st. So you can sign up at any time. If you're already a Skritter user, you're not going to be able to take advantage of this. Obviously, this is a little bit of a marketing thing from our perspective. But if you're already on Skritter, fantastic. Listen and keep using the challenge and using Skritter regardless, because we're going to have some kind of giveaways at the end. But if you're brand new and you're interested in using Skritter, you can actually sign up on the website using the code, and we'll have it in the link description below. You can get free access for Skritter through the 31st. You can use it as much as you want. And really, I think that it's one of these things. The hope is that by the end of this, you've learned tons of new vocabulary, obviously, right? And B, you have maybe fallen in love with Skritter and what it does and how it helps you learn to read and write and retain characters at an exceptionally high level, right? That's the goal. So Olle, how do we join? So we know how to join Skritter, and that's fine, but how do we join your challenge?
Yeah. Okay. So the challenges are pretty flexible in that sense. The goal is to record or set a goal for what you're going to do during the challenge, and that goal is specified in time. So you specify how many hours you want to spend, and that makes it pretty flexible. So while we, of course, Jake and I, we use Skritter daily ourselves normally, so we will of course do that. But whatever you want to do with this vocabulary challenge, you can do it, and it's only a matter of setting a reasonable goal that works for you. And we will talk about that in a little bit. But practically, if you want to sign up, you just go to hackingchinese.com and you click challenges in the menu, and then you have a normal website interface. You sign in using either your email, or you can sign in with various social media networks or whatever you prefer.
Sure.
And once you've signed up, you just need to enroll in that specific challenge for October, and it will ask you to put in a goal. And in order to make the challenges, like I said, the goal is to make them flexible so people can, adjust them to their own their own situations and what they need to focus on. So it's just a number of hours you're supposed to spend during these 3 weeks. So it will ask you for how many hours you want to spend, and you just click enroll, and that's it. And of course, during the challenge, then you go back to this page and you report your progress. You can also put in comments that other people can see, and you can share it on social media and so on. I'm curious, we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm curious what you are going to do.
So I think I'm going to do mostly what I normally do. I'm just going to be a little bit more diligent on kind of keeping track of that progress.
You have to do something special, otherwise it's a little bit boring, I think.
So right now, I'm quite busy, obviously doing a lot of Skritter work. I've got 2 little kids that keep me occupied, but I have been doing weekly Chinese classes on iTalki, so use the internet for that. And typically what I do actually is I will read an article or listen to a podcast every single week, and I extract out some words, not every single word, but the words that I think are incredibly valuable for me and things that I want to like 现学现卖. So I want to learn them and I want to be able to use them. So typically what I'll do is before a class is I'll pull some of that vocabulary out. I'll write some example sentences for it, and then I will have my teacher correct me on those sentences, get some feedback on that during our class, and then I put those into Skritter. So I'll be doing that probably a little bit more intensely. I'm working on a poem right now. I'm working on a song right now, working on a couple other things which I think are super fun. And then in addition to that, actually, I've been working through this, but I think I'm gonna be a little bit more diligent on learning some individual characters. There's a couple study decks that you have actually that are from like Taiwanese educational system for first year through ninth year students. And there's about 5,600 characters or whatever. And so I'm just working my way through those. And I'd like to ideally do somewhere between 5 and 10 of those characters a day. So I think that's going to be, I think by the end of it, I'm going to have a ton of new vocabulary in Skritter and be really confident with that. So I'm going to be working through that, as diligently as possible. I'd like to do it every single day.
How do you think this, we need to translate this into a time spent here. So what do you envision? Like how much time would you spend during the challenge? It's 21 days.
Normally doing my normal reviews, I probably spend 10 to 15 minutes a day just clearing my queue on Skritter. And I'm fairly consistent about that. But this is obviously on top, right? This is new material that I haven't encountered before. So I think in terms of acquiring this vocabulary, reading aside, maybe 5 to 10 minutes learning individual characters. And maybe it's shorter. It kind of depends on the character that comes up, right? But what I'll typically do is I like to find a character and then I maybe go in and use Outlier or even some of our own components, breakdowns inside the application. So I want to understand the character's structure. I want to understand some words that it appears in. So I maybe edit my definitions and then I'll learn those and go through a testing activity once or twice just to make sure it really sticks before it goes into long-term memory. So I think that will probably take maybe 5 minutes per character. And so, probably 30 minutes of doing that, and then some more focused kind of reading during the week. I may not be doing reading every single day, but I will kind of be digesting that information and then, working on, so like 15 minutes of review, 15 to 30 minutes of study a day. That's kind of active toward new vocab acquisition. So,
okay, so that would be roughly like
45 minutes,
It's like 15 hours in 3 weeks.
Yeah, if I can hit that, I'll be happy. Anything over that will just be upside.
Okay, that sounds pretty good.
How about yourself?
I have a slightly different situation. I'm actually not going to add anything new, I hope. So I have to admit I'm behind with my studying. So I've been of course studying in Skritter daily for quite a long time now. But as you said, I'm things pop up and you get busy, and I have this yo-yo relationship with my review queue. So it's been hovering at around 1,000. And for those of you not in the know here, the review queue is, of course, how much stuff I was supposed to have studied already. So it's supposed to be at 0.
It is overdue at this point, Olle, and you are likely to forget some of it, right?
Exactly. So I have 1,000 characters in there, and that sounds like it's quite a lot. And I use the same list as Jake just mentioned. So I used to know all of it. So that's like Jake said, maybe 5,700 characters, something like that. I've banned a few of the really rare ones because they don't make much sense to actually study, or they're not very useful. But anyway, so I'm not going to add things. So I'm basically reviving things I already ought to know. But of course, it's the most problematic characters that tend to pop up now. Like those are the ones that I need to review. So it's still, I would say it's far from easy going. And we're talking about mostly single characters here. And they are usually in the 4,000 plus range. So they are not super, it's not the characters I already know. It's just not just breezing through, Right. I would say it's hard to estimate how much time it takes, of course. But I would say an hour a day. I would be surprised if that was not enough. Like I will add stuff if I find something I want to learn, or like an extra word or something that contains a character I have trouble with. I usually add it separately. So maybe I'll have 2 goals, and I think that's something we can recommend to everybody. Really, like you have a goal, how much time you're supposed to spend, but it's also nice to have a goal beyond that. So my goal would be to clear the queue, and I think an hour a day that should do it. So an hour a day, 21 hours for the challenge. And clearing the queue, that's the main goal. If I do that in less time, that's fine.
And Olle, as we're talking about goals here, I think it's important to point out that everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different, right? There is a leaderboard. It's supposed to be a friendly challenge. But I do think it's incredibly important, listening to both of us talk about this, we're talking about daily goals here. So these are things that we're trying to commit to every single day because we want to build healthy habits, right? So sometimes it's so easy to go gung-ho and be like, I'm going to do 5 hours today or whatever. And if you're using a system like, Skritter or maybe Anki or something like that, spaced repetition systems, that actually hurts you in the long run, right? Because you get this you add these new words or whatever, and then later on, they kind of come and bite you in the butt a little bit, right? So for us, really thinking a healthy goal, right? Maintainable is really incredibly important. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, doing that consistently is going to have far better gains than say waiting a couple days, taking a few breaks, and then trying to crunch and cram and do maybe an hour or so at a time, inconsistently, right?
Yeah. And I think, one suggestion I would offer people who try to build these habits is to try to connect them to something. Like it could be that you connect it to a specific place, like you study Skritter before you get out of bed or before you go to sleep or once you get to your library or whatever place you want to study. Or you connect it to a specific time, like at the stroke of 8, you do this. Or something else, you can do it in a certain situation when something happens, like immediately after getting home from work, you do this. So you have this kind of consistency that you can then build up. And as Jake said, I think it's important that you don't, overdo it in the beginning. If you're not used, like we have been using and learning vocabulary for a long time in this way. So when I say I'm going to spend an hour a day, I know exactly what it means. I've done it before, and it's not something new to me. But if you're new to learning Chinese, doing something like that might be a little bit maybe over the top. Maybe start out with a slightly less ambitious goal, and just consistency is really much more important. Like the fact that you do it every day or that you do it whenever you're decided to do it is much more important than how much you do every time. So getting it done, doing a little bit every day is better than like binge studying at the last moment to get it done.
Absolutely. Completely agree. And for anyone that's looking for some really solid advice and inspiration on habit building, I would highly recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Could be a really nice kind of side piece that you're reading while you're doing one of these challenges, whether it be the Vocab challenge or any other challenge that we have that you have on Hacking Chinese.
So Jake, we know what to study because we've been at this for some time, as it were. But there must be people, maybe someone is new to Skritter, they're just trying it out or something like that. What would you recommend that people study? Is there anything in particular you'd recommend?
Yeah, so first of all, I just think it's really important to say that Skritter we are a vocabulary tool. This is like what it's built for, and we have 4 different card types. So reading, tone cards, definition cards, and pronunciation cards. And really, I think like Skritter is the powerful piece of Skritter is that you are using active recall and you're writing characters. That's what we're really known for. So if you're interested in characters, you're interested in writing characters, and words, then I think that it's really important that you start with understanding stroke order and getting this to be something that you're really confident with and that you're using it becomes kind of second nature. You don't have to think about it. Look at a character, you understand roughly what the stroke order is, which is great for, say, looking up characters on Pleco, or, reading handwriting, or just encountering characters in the wild. It's super useful. So Skritter has a stroke order deck that you and I have actually created and collabed on. Now it's 100% free, even without an account. But obviously, if you use the code and sign up for an account, then you get that SRS system on top. But it's a fantastic deck to study from. It has all the stroke order rules, and then there's kind of a master quiz at the end of another like 20 characters or so. And all these characters we selected from the super high frequency characters. So you just can't go wrong studying from a deck like this. In the same vein, we actually have a 100 common radical deck, which you have referenced so many times on your website and your blog. The importance of learning these common radicals, these common components that exist in characters. So this has been created by you and some of the people in your community. Also free on Skritter. Again, boost that with the SRS system. If you're looking for other materials, check out the featured tab. We do like weekly videos on Skritter. We have tons and tons and tons of textbooks and study lists to study from. All of our HSK content, for example, has level appropriate example sentences, which are really important for providing some of that extra context. If you are kind of learning something in a little bit more of a rush, you don't have, say, a textbook that you're studying right with, at least spend some time to look at those example sentences and commit them to memory a little bit. Beyond that, I think, if we don't have the textbook that you're looking for, you can do custom vocabulary lists on Skritter, similar to Anki. Personally, I find them much better than pre-made vocabulary lists if you don't have that extra context. So if you're looking for something to study, that act of actually creating something, it's a lot easier on Skritter than, say, other systems. We're already going to give you the reading. We're going to give you a stock definition. We're going to have the audio already linked up there 9 times out of 10. It's just going to give you that deeper connection to material. But that process of taking what you're studying and actually putting it into Skritter is also a learning moment, and just makes it, when it shows up for the first time in the review queue, this is not a brand new thing, right? We're familiar with it already, which is super helpful.
And there's another advantage there which I want to highlight, and that's that many students think that it's a waste of time to do all these, when you edit your flashcards and you have to create these things yourself and so on. Mm-hmm. But actually, like you say, first it's the first kind of learning encounter. You also study these things while you add them and so on. There's also another thing that I think is important and kind of a trap that many people fall into when it comes to apps like Skritter or other such apps, and that is to simply just add stuff, without thinking too much about what you're adding. So it's so easy to just click a button and now suddenly you have 5,000 things to study. And that's might feel convenient, and it is, of course. But on the other hand, you might want to ask yourself, like, are these words I really need to know? Should I study these? Whereas if you do it on your own, you know that because you go through the process, and then you can, like, on the fly, when you see these words, when you're adding them, ask yourself, is this something I need to learn? You kind of do that automatically. You wouldn't add things that you think are not meaningful to learn. So kind of, selecting the actual necessary words is an important thing.
Yeah, a little bit of pruning goes a long way. And I think it is one of these things where in the beginning, it may feel really good to add all these, I'm learning so much new stuff. But you really do get overwhelmed over time if you're using these kinds of tools. And these tools are so good at keeping our language kind of at a maintainable level and really healthy, right? We see the gains when we go and pick up a book. And we encounter a word that we haven't maybe seen in the wild very often. Well, Skritter or other SRS systems have reminded us of those things, so it's a lot more fresh in our mind. But there's a limit to what you can achieve, right? Especially, again, if we go back to this, not maintaining healthy habits. So you already know with your challenge, like, you have 1,000 items due. You're gonna struggle with some of those things because you haven't been keeping up with it. And that's just the reality of what happens. And that gets exacerbated even more so if you start adding things that you're not 100% familiar with, or, have context for, or have made that conscious decision to say, I really want to learn this. I want to use this in the wild and when I converse with people. So be a little bit, choosy, picky, and pick and choose your battles, really, because it's going to pay off in the long run.
So one thing you can also, I would also recommend is to, if you're already using Skritter, don't be afraid to ban things that you don't think you need. You can always relearn them later or unban them. Don't study things just because you, at some point in time, thought they were necessary. Well, final piece of advice here and I want to commit to something here as well on screen so everybody hears it. So a good way of getting things done is to be fairly public about it. That's helped me a lot. I've done lots of things in the past when it comes to learning Chinese and so on. We've just been pretty public, like I commit to something. So I commit to posting updates daily of my progress. So I will show everybody on my Twitter account, so how much I've studied, or like at least some kind of record of what's been going on, and also try to record the time spent then in the challenge, Hacking Chinese challenges, and I will share that. And just by saying this to you, and we will, of course, other people will see this, so now I will have a really hard time not doing this. Yeah. So that's a suggestion for everybody. Like, you don't have to go on YouTube and tell people what you're supposed to do, but ask someone to kind of keep track of you. Ask someone to contact you or call you like a week from now and tell them, ask me in a week how I'm doing with my challenge. So someone is going to check in on you.
Yeah. If you don't have that support, you could just set up a reminder in your phone. But honestly, like join Twitter. I'll personally be using Instagram. I have a StudyGram account that I've created. It's Galgen_StudyGram. And I've been kind of doing this regularly already, but I'm going to double my efforts, maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that I'm working on, some of the struggles that I have, what characters might be pesky or whatever. So I'll be doing that daily. I think I'm going to be using the hashtag, I use Skritter StudyGram every single day for my hashtag. But really, yeah, I'm just going to be posting every single day. I think it's a great way, as you said, to be publicly accountable. And it's fun. It's more fun socially. We'll also have the conversation on the Skritter forum. So if anyone wants to get involved over there, if you do sign up for Skritter, you can check that out. And it sounds, Olle, like people will also be able to kind of comment on the Hacking Chinese challenge as well.
Yeah, you can. When you post your daily updates, there is a field you can add whatever you want. So you can say I studied 80 minutes of this, or I spent 60 minutes doing that, and everybody will be able to see this. Or you can control this if you don't want people to see. You can choose that, but you can show it write it in such a way that people see it. So it can also be nice to see what other people are doing, because it's nice to know you're not alone. So
awesome. So I think we need to wrap this up really soon. One more thing though before we're done. Skritter is sponsoring this challenge. Obviously, we've got the HC Vocab Challenge coupon code that gives you free access through October 31st. But at the end, we're going to be looking at some of the top students. Doesn't matter if you're using Skritter or something else, but if you're in the top 10 and you qualify, we're going to randomly select at least 3 individuals. Depending on enrollment here, we may be more generous, I suppose, but we're going to give 6-month activation codes to at least 3 students in the top 10. That's a $59.99 value in USD. And yeah, we're really excited about this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. There might be, because there's some prizes on the line or whatever, I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. It's going to be incredibly obvious if you are, just fudging the numbers a little bit. Additionally, there's no game. You know what I mean? It's just not actually going to help yourself. So be realistic on your reporting, set these real goals, because in the end, this is much more about the process. It's about sticking to and finding some healthy habits, and, having fun along the way. So
who could use these? The prizes, are they're for everybody, right?
They'll be for anybody. Yeah. So if you have a Skritter account or not, you can use them. It's an activation code. Obviously at the end when you distribute, we'll give out some instructions. And we'll also have a little bit of instructions below. This is a website only code. We do have a mobile application. I highly recommend you use it. It's amazing. It's called Skritter Write Chinese. We also have this for Japanese, Skritter Write Japanese. But in order to take advantage of the code and the deals that we're offering, you're going to have to sign up on the website.
So the only thing that remains is to wish everybody good luck with the challenge and happy studying.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us here, Olle. I actually hope to have you on more on the channel in the future. I think there's so many things that we can talk about. You are actually one of my accountability buddies, right, from way back in the day. And so it's always good to kind of catch up, and I'm really, really, really excited about this challenge. Like I said, I think it slots in with Skritter so nicely, and it's just gonna be a lot of fun. October is fall's coming for a lot of us. It's getting a little chilly. Time to hunker down and learn some vocab. So, 我们一起加油吧.
Yes, 加油.
All right, see you everyone, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.